Shocking truth, 6 bone-chilling things you never knew about heaven. Are you prepared for this? The air was thick with anticipation as whispers echoed through the room. One man's voice pierced the stillness, declaring secrets that had remained hidden for centuries. Heaven, they said, might not be the paradise everyone imagined. Did you know that the gates are said to be guarded by shadowy figures? Terrors that might decide who passes through and who gets cast down. As the intrigued crowd leaned closer, the words flowed like an irresistible tide. Each detail painted a picture that both thrilled and chilled. The first bone-chilling revelation was about the Garden of Eternal Shadows, where flowers bloom but only at night. They emit a faint glow, mesmerizing and hypnotic, yet some claim to hear faint cries intertwined within their fragrance, as if lost souls lingered. The second was the Lake of Reflections, stunningly clear but revealing the darkest thoughts of anyone who gazes into its depths. It's said to dredge up hidden fears and regrets, so dangerous that some never wish to return, and that wasn't all. There was talk about the echoes of laughter, children who play but whose eyes tell stories of sorrow from lives cut short. Their giggles fill the air, a sweet melody that vibrates in the heart. But just beneath the laughter lies an unsettling chill, as if their joy is a mask for something far more sinister. With each passing revelation, tension escalated like an unseen storm brewing. What was heaven really? Was it a place of joy, or a prison for those unable to accept their past? The audience was captivated, a mix of hope and dread swirling in the atmosphere, raising questions that clawed at their minds. Could they risk venturing into these unknowns? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect, but there was still more to unfold. People murmured amongst themselves, puzzled faces reflecting both excitement and concern. The night pressed on, thickening the air like molasses. What awaited them behind the next revelation? The final truth, a chilling premonition, was on the horizon, leaving everyone wondering if they were truly prepared for what lay beyond. The hour was late, but the night was still young. And with each passing moment, the line between heaven and something far darker grew increasingly blurred. The man's voice trembled slightly as he prepared to reveal the final secret. It seemed that the room held its breath, hanging onto his every word as if fearing what might come next. Now, let me tell you about the veil of regrets, he began, the shadows flickering ominously around him. The crowd leaned in, their eyes wide with anticipation, the weight of unspoken fears pressing down on them. This is where spirits who were denied entry gather, haunted by their missed chances and unfulfilled lives. They stand just behind the gates of heaven, unable to move forward, forever caught between desire and reality. A gasp rippled through the crowd. You could feel a collective shudder, like an electric current running through the air. The speaker raised a hand, urging silence once more. The veil is said to shimmer like the surface of water. But do not be fooled, it is darker than any storm cloud. If you dare to tread too close, it shows you the worst of what you could have become, he warned. Some who approach, driven by curiosity, find themselves pulled into their own memories. They watch helplessly as opportunities slip away like grains of sand. The fear-gripped faces twisted into a mix of horror and anxiety. A woman at the back clutched her partner, her knuckles white. Is that what will happen to us? She whispered, the tremor in her voice echoing in the silence as others nodded, feeling the weight of her words. And it gets worse, he continued, lowering his voice to a hush that sent chills up spines. For those who look too long, the spirits cry out in agony, revealing secrets they took with them. Whispers of betrayal, pleas for forgiveness. Some say you can even hear your own name among them, each regret echoing louder than the last. A murmur of disbelief spread through the audience, but the man pressed on, looking into the frightened eyes that watched him. What will you become if you let those regrets consume you? Are you prepared to confront your own demons? The night grew darker, as if clouds were closing in, and the lights flickered, amplifying the tension. What if these regrets fester, and you never truly move on? A young man in the front shouted out, his voice cracking under the weight of the question. The man's gaze sharpened. Remember, the greatest tragedy isn't dying with regrets, it's living with the fear of what you might find on the other side. As he finished speaking, a striking realization hit the crowd: they were not just listeners anymore. They were participants in a journey that might lead them through their own fears, deeper than dreams and darker than nightmares. With eyes darting between one another, the weight of their choices now loomed like a shadow. Before they could settle the newfound tension swirling in their minds, the lights flickered again, casting uneven shadows that danced across the walls. The air thickened, charged with something raw and primal, as if daredevils lurked just beyond the door. "Who is ready to step through the shadows?" He posed with a hint of a grin, but the darkness in his eyes told a different story. "What do you want to leave behind when you arrive?" That's the question that will linger as you venture into the unknown. And as the crowd absorbed what lay ahead, a distant sound pierced through the tension, a steady, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat echoing in the dark. What was that sound? Was it the beating heart of heaven, or something far more dangerous waiting to break through? The air quivered with uncertainty, and dread silently gripped each person's heart as they faced the choice looming ahead. Would they dare to find out? The thumping sound grew louder, pulsating like thunder in their chests, each beat dragging their hearts deeper into the shadows. It felt primal, as if the very fabric of reality vibrated with unspoken truths. A woman near the front, eyes wide with fear, whispered, "What if it's coming for us?" The atmosphere thickened. Their breaths became shallow, as if the weight of possibility hung in the air. The man who had shared the allure of the veil stood amidst the gathering fear, a storm of emotions churning within him. "Don't be afraid," he called out, though his own voice trembled. "Fear is what the veil feeds on." A collective tension broke into nervous chuckles, but the laughter was more a mask than relief. They were terrified, and the flickering lights overhead seemed to sense it, adding to the eerie ambience. It was a warning, a sign that something far beyond comprehension loomed just on the other side. "Listen," he urged, as he pointed towards the shadows. There, wisps of darkness seemed to pulse, flickering like the last gasps of breath. "Those beats, they aren't just any heartbeat. It's the heartbeat of your regrets. They're calling out for you, begging you to remember." Each person stood frozen, trapped between their pulse races and the mounting dread. The young man from earlier took a cautious step forward, his courage exceeding his caution. "What does it want from us?" he shouted, his voice raw but steady. "What does it mean?" The man's gaze sharpened, as if his own fears were surfacing. "It wants you to face what you fear most. The things you pushed aside, the truths you buried. Each regret is a weight. If you don't confront it, it'll pull you down, down into despair." An unseen force crackled in the air, raising the hairs on their necks. The shadows coalesced, swirling like a tempest, and gasps erupted as a figure materialized at the edge of the flickering light. A young woman hovered there, her eyes shining with a knowing sorrow. "Help me," she mouthed, though no sound came forth. Her arms reached out, fingers trembling with longing and desperation. Gasps echoed, some stepped back, others reached forward. "What is she?" questioned a trembling voice from the back. Silence swallowed them, each heart pounding a question: was she one of the fallen, or a spirit seeking redemption? Every choice, every moment you chose fear over love, is what chains her here. The man's voice rose as he gestured wildly toward her. "This is what awaits if you do not choose wisely." With each thud of the heartbeat, more figures pulled into view, shadowy outlines of lost souls mirrored by regret and longing. They reached out, mouths moving as if screaming, though no sound pierced the veil of silence. The crowd shuddered, the undeniable presence of their dreams and failures crashing against their minds. All around, grips tightened on each other, fingers entwined, and yet, the connection felt fragile, like bonds on the verge of snapping under the weight of the moment. "What will you choose?" the man asked again, his voice low yet urgent, slicing through the tension. "Will you listen to the heartbeats of regret? Or will you learn from their cries?" Then, just as suddenly, the heartbeat stopped. Silence thickened like fog, pressing down on them. The darkness closed in, and a chilling whisper escaped the shadows: "Choose, before your time runs out." Their breaths were frantic now, fear wrestling with determination as they faced the void, left questioning their choices. The flickering lights began to fade, leaving them in almost complete darkness. Would they dare to confront the shadows? The echoing question lingered, a haunting whisper that filled the air with uncertainty. What lay beyond their choice, beyond the veil? The answer may change everything, and nothing could prepare them for the truth that awaited. As the darkness enveloped them, panic mingled with a paralyzing silence. Each heartbeat seemed a countdown, a reminder that they were running out of time. The former connection that had briefly wrapped around them fell threadbare, and now only fear gripped the crowd. "Why isn't anyone moving?" A whisper cut through the stillness, raw and trembling. It was the young woman at the front, her voice rising in chaos. "We can't just stand here." Her skin was slick with sweat, and desperation etched deep lines across her forehead. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, swirling like a tempest eager to claim custody of lost souls. The apparition of the young woman, her expression hauntingly familiar, stretched out her arms once more. Every figure that had appeared before them mirrored her melancholy, each face draped in despair as if a heavy shroud completely encased them. "Face what haunts you," called the man, his urgency rising like a flame in the night. "Only then can she be freed. Don't let fear entrap you." The crowd's eyes darted from the figures to one another, a silent pact forming, yet the fear of the unknown held them in chains. The bewitching allure of confronting their regrets flickered at the edges of their minds like the distant light of a lighthouse in a storm. What do we have to do?" The young man stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, but within his tone lay both terror and yearning. The figure of the woman rose slightly above the others, her features becoming clearer. With every heartbeat that echoed through the air, her translucent form pulsed, a manifestation of hope caught in the binds of despair. "Remember," she urged, her lips moving, but still soundless. Then, she did something unexpected. She stepped back, disappearing momentarily into the darkness as if seeking refuge. I don't know what to face." Another voice cracked. The tears brimming in her eyes mirrored the unease in every shared glance, amplified by the magnetic pull of the shadows creeping closer. "They will take you to your darkest thoughts," the man cautioned. "But remember, facing them is your only way out. Throw open the door to your past." Suddenly, a rumble echoed from the shadowed mass. Figures surged forward, their silent mouths opening wide, revealing nothing but cold air thick with dread. A woman stumbled backward, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "No!" she shouted, despair gripping her voice. "I can't." In that very moment, the darkness exploded into frantic movement. Figures rushed toward the crowd, their outstretched hands reaching, grasping, pulling at the threads of fear that intertwined them all. "Run!" someone yelled, and chaos erupted. Bodies surged in different directions, trying to escape the grasp of the fading light. But the shadows chased them, swirling faster, and their screams began to echo back through the pulsating darkness, a cacophony of regrets rushing up from the depths. "Stop!" The man's voice pierced through the noise, commanding. "You must stay together. Focus on each other. Each regret you face will weaken the darkness." In a desperate attempt, the young woman reached for the young man from before, their hands intertwining. "I won't let fear pull you away," she shouted against the chaos. For a moment, their bond shone bright against the encroaching blackness, but it wasn't enough. The whispering shadows forgot the circle they had formed, broken by dread, despair flooding in. As they held one another, the darkness shifted and merged, revealing glimpses of past moments, failures, regrets, conversations left unspoken. Each person's gaze locked onto the figures. They saw their own shadows, bitter moments of cowardice, lost connections, and dreams unfulfilled. "Face your past. Just remember." The man's voice rang out like a beacon in the storm. But the fear was palpable, their breaths quickening as the void pressed closer, and then, with a sudden crash, a final heartbeat boomed, the sound reverberating through their bodies, dragging them down as the shadows surged forward, demanding acknowledgement. Just as the darkness was about to envelop them whole, a single voice broke through, filled with conviction. "I choose to confront my pain." The words hung in the air like smoke, a spark igniting hope amidst the despair. Others paused, looking toward the voice, embers of bravery flickering to life in their eyes. The shadows crackled, sensing the shift. Would more join in the declaration? Would they fight against the tide, or succumb to it? The stage was set for a final choice, a defining moment, one fraught with danger. What would happen next? Would they find the strength to confront their regrets, or would they fade into the darkness forever? The air thickened with anticipation. All eyes turned to the voice that dared to break the spell of silence, that defied the shadows creeping closer. Hope flickered like a dying candle, but could it sustain the wild winds of fear raging through them? I choose to confront my pain. The voice was firm. It belonged to a middle-aged man, his features lined with years of regret. Light glimmered in his eyes as he stepped forward, shaking off doubts that feel like chains. Others inhaled sharply, their resolve wavering but ignited anew by his courage. An electric surge pulsed through the crowd. Those still paralyzed by fear exchanged glances, unsure whether to join him or retreat into the void. The man met their gaze, as if willing them to step forward alongside him. We can't let it win. It's our past, and it's time to make peace with it. With each word, the darkness seemed to pulse, growing more aggressive, almost angry. The shadowy figures began to swirl chaotically, their whispers shifting to furious shouts, echoing with the angry regrets of those they represented. Suddenly, the young woman, emboldened by the man's resolve, shouted back, "I'll face them too. I'm done being haunted." Her voice sliced through the murkiness, her spirit radiating like a beacon. Others hesitated, caught in a cycle of terror, but hope was contagious. One by one, they began to step forward, their convictions rising in a chorus of defiance against their pasts. I remember my failures, one said, but they don't define me. Another echoed, I will speak the words I never dared. With each declaration, the shadows recoiled slightly as though struck back by the very light of their courage. But still, the darkness did not seem inclined to relent. It rumbled and convulsed, seeking to punish those who dared to confront it. Stay together, the man urged, as a wave of uncertainty washed through the crowd. We're stronger as one. Our pain is collective. He reached for the hand of a trembling woman nearby. Don't let go. We face this together. The grip between them reignited their strength, an anchor amidst calamity. As more voices rose, the atmosphere shifted like a storm gathering speed. Each confession spilled like raw emotion, unveiling burdens that had marred their hearts. Memories poured forth, lost opportunities, strained relationships, the weight of unmade choices echoing through the dark. The figures faltered as the cries for recognition grew louder. One shadow stepped forward, trembling. I am your fear, your guilt for every tear shed and dream shattered. You ignored me. You buried me. Gasps erupted from the crowd, the figure bore the sorrow of 1,000 regrets. But with every tremor of that shadow, the man raised his chin, meeting it with fierce determination. You can't control us anymore. We own our stories. For a heartbeat, time suspended as the darkness faltered. The crowd surged with newfound resolve, blades of courage sharp enough to tear through the cloak of dread. But just as they began to sense an opening, another figure rushed forth, the young woman's haunted counterpart, moving like an arrow toward the center. You think you can fight me with strength? The voice dripped with disdain. I am your past, your deepest fears. You will break. Before they could brace for the onslaught, an echoing roar filled the air. The shadows shifted violently, swirling around them, as if propelled by fury and desperation. It was an ominous reminder that confronting one's past could ignite an inferno within. Will their collective courage overcome the consuming shadows, or would they be engulfed in a darkness tangled with the nightmares they thought they knew? Amid the chaos, the man raised his voice one last time. Together, we can turn this tide. As they closed ranks, the ground beneath began to quake. Was it the shadows trembling, or was it their resolve that rumbled like thunder? The moment teetered on a knife's edge. Would they find the power within to bring light into the hollow despair? Or would the darkness consume them, leaving nothing in its wake? The question loomed heavy, thick with uncertainty. The outcome rested on a knife's edge, teetering between perfection and obliteration. The moment shattered, a crack splitting the heavy silence. The shadows howled, a cacophony of voices rising like a storm. They twisted and lunged, seeking to pull everyone back into their grip. The relentless darkness was a churning sea of despair, and each person felt a tug, a desperate pull toward those familiar depths of anguish. "Stay strong," the man shouted, his voice piercing through the chaos. "Look into the eyes of your pain. Don't turn away." The young woman stood firm, her chest heaving as she fought against the tide of memories crashing over her. Fear washed over her like ice water. Would she truly confront it all? What if that fear proved insurmountable? Taking a deep breath, she shouted back, "You don't own me. I refuse to run any longer." Several others echoed her, finding strength in the surging tide of unity. "Together!" they chanted, voices intertwined. Each shout seemed to peel back a layer of shadow and reveal a flicker of brightness hope. But the lurking figures were enraged, thrashing more vigorously. The leader of the shadows, a monstrous silhouette with eyes like cold embers, stepped closer. "You think this is a game?" it hissed, its voice a sickening rasp. "You think courage will save you? I am every mistake you wish to forget. I am inevitable." A shiver ran through the group. Some faltered, doubt creeping in like a thief. Had they stirred up something too dangerous? Was courage merely a mask for foolishness? The man sensed the hesitation and intensified his grip on the trembling woman. "We can't let fear rule us. Remember why we're here." Each person rifled through their memories, clinging to the moment they chose to confront their anguish, the moment that had driven them to this stand. One voice rose, then another. "I'm here for my sister, for my children, for the dreams I buried." Suddenly, a flickering light erupted from the center of the group as they pressed closer together, their hands clasped like a chain of steel. The shadows writhed, thrown into disarray by the light. It was as if the dark figures were battered against the brightness of their shared courage, but the leader of the shadows wasn't finished. It swelled, growing closer, ready to unleash a storm of despair. "You're only as strong as your weakest link," it screeched, focusing on the trembling woman whose hands shook. "What if you can't hold on? What if you crack?" A gust of panic bubbled within her, but she thought of her sister, of the sacrifices she'd made. She couldn't break, not now. Not when they were all counting on her. "Feel it!" she yelled. "Feel the fear, and let it empower you. It's okay to be scared. It's what we do with that fear that matters." The man caught her eye and nodded. They all felt it, the flickers of doubt fueling their resolve rather than crushing it. The shadows faltered again, inching backward. Victory could be within reach, but just as they began to breathe easier, a deafening roar rattled the ground beneath them. It surged violently, a tremor of dread as the shadows converged. Clawing, gripping, searching for vulnerability, they reached out like tendrils of smoke. "Focus!" Where almost a blinding flash illuminated the darkness. The crowd instinctively shielded their eyes. The moment stretched like taffy, weaving between fear and anticipation. As the light flickered, the shadows contorted, shrieking like angry banshees, rattling from the impact. Then the light dimmed, revealing something they hadn't anticipated. A figure stood between them and the relentless shadows, torn between realms. "What have you done?" it whispered, voice trembling. A deep chill settled in their hearts. This unexpected figure had the power to uncover secrets buried long ago, secrets that could change everything. Would this revelation bring salvation, or only a deeper descent into chaos? The air crackled with uncertainty, trapping everyone in a moment of suspense. What lay ahead was a path veiled in shadows and whispers, and the weight of the truth would soon be unleashed, opening wounds that had only begun to heal. The figure took a tentative step forward, the shadows swirling around it as the tension thickened. Recognition struck like lightning in the young woman's chest. It was her sister, impossibly alive, yet trapped in this terrifying limbo. "Sarah?" she gasped, chest tight with disbelief. The figure's expression mirrored her anguish, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I tried to protect you." Sarah's voice broke, shaking as she extended a hand. But it wasn't enough. The shadows hissed, faces morphing into twisted memories, seizing the moment. "She was your link," the dark leader screeched, the flickering light growing dimmer with every word. "Now you can feel her pain. It's a burden you share. The gathered individuals recoiled, whispers of doubt skimming through them like a cold draft. The man beside the young woman clenched his fists, refusing to look away from Sarah, even as the shadows lunged closer. No! This isn't over. But fear gripped the young woman's heart, hard and vice-like. What if her sister had been the key holding everything together? The very notion sent a wave of nausea through her. I don't know if I can. Yes, you can. Sarah shouted through the chaos, raw determination lighting her face. You need to trust yourself. The shadows prey on fear. Without fear, they can't hold you. You must confront this darkness together. The ground trembled beneath them, shadows sparking with rage. You can't bind her to your fate. She will drag you down. But the man's voice rang out, cutting through the clamor. No, we can do this. All of us. He turned back to the group, drawing them in with relentless hope. We've fought for our loved ones. That strength won't falter now. Not when it counts. The rallying cry ignited something within each person. They stepped forward, hands gripping, voices rising. We are stronger together. We refuse to let fear dictate our lives. The shadows recoiled, their monstrous forms struggling against the growing wave of determined light. The connection deepened, and the air surged with a flicker of newfound strength, wrapping around them like a protective shield, but just as they began to feel the tide shift, a thunderous crack echoed overhead. A fissure opened in the darkness, revealing pinpricks of light. Yet, from that rip, darker shadows flooded through, hungry and relentless. Now you will feel despair. The leader shrieked, its form swelling with revenge. Embrace your losses. Relinquish your hope. The young woman faced her sister, a storm of conflicting emotions swirling inside her. Sarah, I listen. Sarah interrupted, her voice fierce. The light, the truth from within, it's a choice. No matter what they throw at us, we can choose to hold on. The ground beneath them shook violently as shadows surged forth, reaching like tendrils toward the group. Adrenaline coursed through their veins as fear wrestled with hope. Choose. Sarah shouted, echoing in the faces around her. Choose to fight. In that moment, they became a force to be reckoned with, hearts pounding as they stared into the chaos. Did they have what it took to face the truth? To confront the past that clawed at them? As they rallied, another roiling wave of darkness surged forward, and they realized that the fight wasn't just against the shadows, it was a battle for their very souls. Would they stand firm, united, or be swallowed whole? The air throbbed with anticipation, the shadows closing in tight. All eyes turned back to the young woman, the weight of expectation heavy on her shoulders. In the depths of that moment, she understood that she held more power than she realized if only she could harness it. Would the truth ignite their liberating strength, or would it shatter the fragile bond they crafted? The outcome rested on a knife's edge. An answer loomed, yet remained tantalizingly out of reach. The shadows pressed closer, a suffocating wave of darkness threatening to swallow them whole. The young woman could almost taste the fear, it gnawed at her insides, making her feel small, powerless. Yet Sarah's words resonated within her, sending a flicker of light deep into the corners of her mind. Hold on! She shouted, trying to squeeze hope out of her trembling heart. Sarah is right. We can push back. Beside her, the man's grip strengthened on her hand, his determination contagious. Together! He yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. He turned to face the gathering storm of shadows. We refuse to be just shadows of our past. We are more than our fears. With a collective roar, the group surged forward, throwing off their hesitations. They linked hands, forming a barrier against the encroaching darkness. A vibrant glow began to radiate from their united front, illuminating the dim chamber. It was like a dam breaking, the fears flooding out as they fed off each other's courage. Focus! The young woman yelled. Think of what we're fighting for. Images flashed in her mind, their loved ones smiling, laughter echoing through the air, memories of warmth and safety. She closed her eyes, rooting herself in those visions, letting them weave into a tapestry of strength that she felt swelling inside of her, but the shadows weren't about to let this surge of hope go unchallenged. They lashed out, clawing toward them with dark, twisted forms that writhed and screamed in agony, feeding on the despair that lingered in the air. The group instinctively recoiled, but the young woman pushed through her fear, feeling the connection with her sister. "Don't give in. This is our moment," she shouted again, forcing her eyes open. As she did, a surge of light pulsed from their hands, illuminating the space in blinding brilliance. It revealed the nightmarish faces of the shadows, twisted in torment. For the first time, the young woman felt a deep sense of empathy toward those figures. They were trapped too, just like Sarah, just like her. Then, from the depths of darkness, the leader emerged, its form monstrous and stunted, a grotesque parody of mortality. "You're all fools," it howled, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You cannot escape what lies beneath your surface. Watch us," the young woman shouted defiantly. "We will break this cycle." A low rumble echoed as the shadows recoiled, splintering like glass. The air was thick with energy, she could feel the raw power thrumming in her fingertips. The connection with her sister deepened, her heart sinking with the others, their hopes mingling into a blinding chakra of light. "Now!" Sarah cried, and they unleashed their collective will, sending a wave of brilliance surging through the darkness. Light met shadow with a thunderous crash, reverberating through every inch of the gloomy atmosphere, pushing the tendrils back, but as the shadows withdrew, the dark leaderess' laughter bubbled up, chilling and frantic. "You think this is the end? You have not even begun to unravel the truths buried within." The shadows seemed to pulse in response, caught in the throes of uncertainty, but the leader's confidence remained unnerving. With every ounce of strength, they pressed on, their resolve lighting the path ahead. The darkness twisted and writhed in protest, but hope surged through them like fire, fueling their push against despair. Just when victory felt within reach, another crack split the air, reverberating like a gunshot. "What's happening?" Someone shouted over the din. The shadows convulsed, shifting their focus from the group toward the fissure above. A figure began to emerge from that rift, shrouded in obsidian mist, eyes glinting with malicious intent. The young woman gasped, heart racing, throat parched. "We need to stop it. We can't let it come through." But as she braced herself for the next wave of chaos, a jarring realization struck. What if the figure from the fissure held the ultimate truth, something so powerful it could turn their world upside down? The tension built as the shadows surged once more, clawing toward them, desperate to bring them down. Would the truth they yearned for lead them to salvation or further entrapment? The fight was far from over, and the real battle was just beginning. As the figure slipped through the fissure, a tension overtook the room, crawling under their skin like ants. It stood tall, draped in darkness, with its gaze fixed on the young woman. Each step it took echoed with a weight of dread, as if it reveled in the fear it instigated. The shadow swirled around its feet like a living thing, pulsing with anticipation. "Stop!" She found herself shouting, her voice fragile yet resolute. "Foolish girl," it hissed, each word dripping with venom. "You think your light can chase me away? I am the truth you fear to face, a mirror reflecting every shame, every regret." The group shuddered as the shadows rushed forward, whispering secrets that clawed at their memories. Faces of loved ones twisted, echoing doubts they'd buried deep, the worst moments of their lives that now threatened to rise again. The cacophony of their collected fears suffocated her spirit, pushing her toward despair. "No!" she yelled, her voice cracking, but her will intact. The warmth radiating from her connection with the others flickered like a dying ember yet refused to extinguish. "We've come too far to back down now. Let go of me," someone cried, as a shadow clung around their ankle, dragging at their resolve. The young woman turned her gaze to her friends, determination surging within her. "You can't let it consume you," she urged, reaching out her hands. It was time to remember their strength, their unity, and conquer what loomed behind the fear. But as they rallied together, the figure laughed again, a chilling sound that sent ice through her veins. "You have no idea what lies beneath the fabric of your reality. Each of you carries a darkness far greater than any shadow I could conjure." With a desperate rush of hope, she thought about the memories that anchored her, the laughter, the smiles, the love that filled her heart, and how that transcended the darkness. "We own our histories. We are more than our past," she yelled, and as she said it, a surge erupted within her, filling the air with bright energy. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the warmth that enveloped the group. The leader's grin faltered momentarily, then intensified into a sneer. "You think you can wield your love as a weapon? I will show you true despair." At that moment, the figure lunged forward, the darkness coiling around its form transforming into tendrils that lashed out, whipping toward the group. A piercing scream cut through the air as one of their own was engulfed by the advancing shadows. "No!" The young woman felt her heart drop. She instinctively dove forward, her body moving before her mind could catch up. But Sarah pulled her back, her grip firm. "Don't! We have to hold the line," she shouted. The pain of losing someone to the shadows made tears spill down the young woman's cheeks, but she nodded. They had to stay focused. They had to fight. The shadows writhed, swirling as if alive. In that tumult, the young woman looked up to the figure beyond its eyes, a tempest of malice, fixated on her. Beneath the strident laughter, a sound beckoned, deep and resonant, pulling at her spirit. A whisper crawled through the dark, promising the truth she yearned for. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it felt personal. The shadows screamed of secrets buried deep in the frail estimate of what they knew. "Are you ready for what you're going to uncover?" the figure taunted. Just as the young woman felt the push to leap forward with her questions, a heavy force slammed into them, a wall of dark energy. "Stand strong!" shouted the man beside her, his voice firm even as the shadows wrapped tighter around their feet. Their light began to flicker, the air thickened with urgency and dread. "Do not waver!" Sarah echoed, but the lingering heat of doubt wafted through her veins like smoke. What truth were they on the brink of discovering? Would it bind them closer together, or finally tear them apart? As the darkness pressed in, the answers to their questions hung suspended in the air, tantalizingly close yet hauntingly out of reach. Would exposure to that truth lead them to liberation or their inevitable demise? The group steadied as a surge of shadows rushed at them once again, and they braced for the oncoming tempest. The shadows surged forward, a tide of darkness, threatening to engulf everything in sight. The room was a maelstrom of fear and uncertainty, yet amidst the chaos, a pulse of determination ignited. The young woman, her heart racing, squeezed her sister's hand tighter, channeling warmth into the palm of fear's grip. "We won. Let you take us," she shouted, her voice a beacon slicing through despair. "Together!" the man beside her echoed, his shout igniting a fire in the hearts of those around him. They formed a circle, hand in hand, grounding each other as the shadows encroached. "Face the darkness. Remember what we stand for." One by one, the crowd mirrored his strength, their voices merging into a powerful anthem of defiance. Each confession became a searing bolt of light. They called forth memories, moments that bonded them more tightly than fear could tear apart. "For our loved ones," a woman cried, her eyes shimmering with tears of resolve. "For our dreams," another added, bolstered by the chorus. The shadows lashed out, howling in fury as if the light had inflicted a wound. "Fools!" the dark leader spat, its voice a thunderstorm. "You think you can escape your past? I will bring it all back, every lie, every hurt." But the group refused to buckle. "We're stronger than you can imagine," the young woman declared, channeling the courage coursing through her veins. With every heartbeat, the brilliant glow of unity intensified, weaving them together, entwining their fates like climbing vines. The figure from within the fissure grasped at the edges of their bond, a dark silhouette against their gleaming resolve. "You cannot hide from the truth. It's what you must face first." Shadows enveloped it, swirling in a frenzy as it pressed forward, eyes alight with dread and mischief. "What if the truth awakens our worst fears?" a man whispered, panic creeping back into his voice. But the young woman set her jaw, pushing through the murky waters of doubt. She had seen the worst, it was time to believe they could rise beyond it. "Here is the truth," she pressed forward, courage rising like flame. "Facing it doesn't mean we become it. We choose to reclaim our stories. We're not burying anything, we're healing." As their declarations drummed in the air, the shadows recoiled. Hisses and howls of anguish echoed as if the darkness itself feared their collective courage. The young woman caught sight of the young girl drifting in the dark, her sister now more resolute than ever, urging her to breach the veil. "Let us go forward. It's time to confront what we have buried. Sarah shouted, her words backed by a foundation of fierce love. We are better than our regrets. We reflect light, even in the darkest of places. The darkness surged, but their shared resolve transformed their fear into fuel. Shine bright. They urged, a mantra rising, each voice weaving into the fabric of defiance. Each individual became a thread, a story intertwining like vines, undeniably connected, and in that moment, the young woman focused on the figure before her. Show us then. Reveal what we need to see. She cried, challenging the very fears shadowed within. The dark figure flickered, anguish contorting its form as whispers of past mistakes floated up like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. You think you can face me? I know your secrets. It spat, spitting negativity and despair into the fray. But the connection among the group surged, the light undermining the cacophony of fear. Tell me everything. She shouted, her voice as sharp as steel. Let me be unafraid. I want to heal. The shadows exploded outward, revealing a flood of memories. A cacophony of faces flashed by, moments of joy dulled by regret, laughter twisted with sorrow, futures missed, and dreams deferred. Each memory fought for space, clawing to be acknowledged, echoing in her heart, but the darkness quivered as if tormented, cracking under the relentless onslaught of their resolve. You think this will end well? The voice hissed, the shadows writhing in agony. You only embrace more pain. With a fierce cry, the young woman gathered her strength, focusing on the warmth of her sister's presence beside her. Your grip can't hold us. We're more than your shadows. We rise together. And at that moment, something shifted. The collective glow brightened, illuminating even the crevices of despair. The darkness flared, an illusory power fading against the brilliance of the truth they all embraced, the truth that pain could transform into something greater. Let this light guide us home. They all shouted, hearts beating in unison, declaring victory over shadows looming long. It was time to break free. With one collective push, they exhaled against the dark storm. Brilliant light erupted, illuminating everything, banishing phantoms that had lingered too long. The shadows screamed in futility, collapsing under the weight. In an explosion of brilliance, the fissure above lit up with hope, revealing the path before them. The young woman beamed, feeling the love of every person pour through her like a river. Let us go home. She cried as they took the brave steps forward. And just like that, the darkness shattered like glass, revealing a vast landscape, a garden lit by golden light, an eternity filled with promise. Together, they ventured into the light, leaving the shadows where they belonged, buried within the past. As the dawn approached, their hearts swelled with relief. They had faced their fears and emerged transformed, free to write their future anew. With laughter ringing through the garden, they stepped into the warmth of new beginnings, joy swelling in their chests. Their journey had forged a bond that could never be untethered, the memories of struggle mere stepping stones to becoming who they were always meant to be. And they left the shadows behind. Before you wrap up this epic journey, don't forget that this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the love. And hey, we want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Every single thought matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world, and only true fans understand the importance of standing united in this community.